Hey everyone, David Twyble here. Today we're going to do a pre-flight on the Luscombe 8A. This is just my personal method and reasoning for how I pre-flight my Luscombe. So make sure that you consult your AFM or POH as appropriate and get proper flight instruction before you go fly yourself. So we're going to go through a very detailed pre-flight here, take a look at some nuances of the Luscombe. And today's one of our first nice days here in the Midwest. And even though it's about 75 degrees, you can see we still have snow on the ground. So it's good to be back out with the Luscombe. And I apologize for the wind, but it is the Midwest, so that's just kind of a gimme. But the first thing I like to do when I pre-flight any airplane is give it the did it get hit by a truck check. And this is just a big scale picture before I get into the nitty gritty. Is the airplane sitting true? Is it sitting level? Does anything look like it's been damaged or major leaking since I was out here last? And right now, from the distance, everything looks good. So let's go up to the cockpit and take a look there before we get started with the exterior. So I've owned this airplane now for about 8 years, going on 8 years, and have about 1,000 hours in it, and had a lot of fun with it the last couple years, and it's been a good airplane for me. Very simple, very reliable, and just a good little airplane if you just want to fly airplanes. So we're here in the cockpit looking at the instrument panel, and the first couple things we're going to check is going to be that the fuel valve over here on the left side is vertical, which tells us that the fuel valve is closed, which we need to do a good pre-flight. Take a quick look at the instruments. Everything looks pretty normal. Airspeed 0, altimeter will need to be adjusted, balls in the middle, oil pressure 0, oil temperature is pretty good, especially for after having flown it this winter a little bit. That's already a good start. RPM is 0 and vertical speed is 0. I've got the right door secured. The door locks on this particular 8A are very simple. They're just a little welded handle like that, and it's secure. Next we're going to come down, and my next flight will most likely be solo, so I've got the right side seat belts buckled and secured. Got my trim here, and we can see that the little red mark there is lined up just short of the 0. That's the takeoff position. And then we have our equipment here to do the pre-flight. So we'll snag those, put those in our pocket. And then we also have our fuel gauge back here on the back of the cockpit, and it's kind of hard to see what it reads right now, but it looks like we're about between 1/2 and 3/4. But we'll check that with the stick. So we move outside the airplane and we come to the fuel cap. And we notice that the fuel cap has a funny opening on the front of it. You can see there's an opening right there. And that was very much done on purpose. We'll talk about that maybe another time. But it's very, very important that the opening of that fuel cap on these 8As is pointed forward. And that puts positive pressure on the tank. So we're going to take the cap off here, and then I have my stick, and I personally calibrated this stick several years ago, and I know that it matches my fuel tank exactly, and that it's doing what I need it to do. So I found the bottom of the tank, I pull it out, and I see that I have 8 gallons, and that matches roughly with what we saw in the cockpit. So we'll probably add some gas before we go fly it, but 8 gallons would be enough for an hour flight or a pattern flight. So we've checked our fuel level, put the stick back inside. Okay, now we're going to work our way down the fuselage, and as you may know, these Luscombes were some of the very first general aviation all-metal airplanes, and so they have a unique fuselage design. where the fuselage blends right into the back of the wing. And then we also see that there's this side panel here. And that was done very much on purpose to allow the riveters to rivet the skins together. And so we have a lot of rivet lines here. And because the outside structure is most of the actual structure itself, we need to very thoroughly check all of our rivets here. And I already missed something. This is our static port right here. So we see that our static port is open. Of course, me doing this video, before I actually go flight, I will do my own proper pre-flight without the distraction of video. But for purposes now, we're going around. And so now we get to the horizontal stabilizers. We look down underneath and we see our tail wheel, our data plate, more rivets, we're checking those. Look underneath the skin here, make sure that that looks to be in good shape. We can see our elevator trim tab there, and it's in the correct position because we just set it for takeoff. There is an inspection panel, a little round disc there on the bottom of the horizontal stabilizer, and that's secure, so that's good. Now the interesting part about these horizontal stabilizers is that they're actually the same piece. There isn't a left side or a right side. You can put either one on either side, and we'll see that here in just a second. But come along here, look at the vertical stabilizer. It's in good shape. And these 8As, the earlier ones, have the rounded horizontals and verticals, and so that's how you know it's an A. Come along here. What you're seeing here on the skin is from corrosion treatment. We've put Corrosion X in the wings multiple times, and this silver paint just makes it stand out like something fierce, which is annoying. But we clean it and then go fly it, and it's a mess again. Come around here to the elevator, and we can see that it moves correctly. Lift it gently. We see that our elevator bolts are in place. Come along in here, and we can get a look inside here. It's hard to see, but I'm looking in here to make sure that the cotter pins and castle nuts are correctly fastened to allow this to move. Check our hinge here. There's another hinge on the bottom down in there that's hard to see on film. We check the shape of our rudder, make sure that the skin is all riveted together. And then we get down to the tail wheel. And of course, on any tail wheel airplane, the tail wheel is kind of the most important part, especially in ground steering. And so we want to check several things. First of all, we see that the tail wheel is inflated, which this one has to be because it's solid rubber. But we can see that it's sitting correctly on its axle. And then this is a mall type tail wheel, and so this cap is properly in place. We can see that the steering arm here has a little bit of wiggle, but that's okay. We see that our chains here are correctly fastened, that the chain clips here are not going to pop off. We have the locking type up here, and we make sure that the nut is tight on that. Check our springs and our chains themselves to make sure they're good, because if we lose any part of this, whether it be the wheel or the axle or the steering bar or the chains or the rudder horns itself, this being the rudder horn here, we're going to be in trouble when it comes to steering. So this is like very much a take a minute and thoroughly check everything kind of thing. We're not just breezing through this. Of course, you shouldn't breeze through any pre-flight because your life depends on it, but the tail wheel even more so on the tail wheel airplane. Anywho, so we get here and we have a cam and slot mechanism, and so I'm looking at this this little groove that the cam rides on, and that determines if the tail wheel is locked and steerable or just free pivoting like a grocery cart wheel. And so I want to make sure that that race or slot is in position, and it is. We're also looking at our tail wheel spring. We can see that this clip on the spring is secure, bolts in place, it looks right. And then we're also even just very important just to check the angle of that spring and tail wheel mechanism. and that it's not sagging, and that it looks right, and that looks pretty darn good. We can see that the axle or the vertical axis of that tail wheel pivot where it actually steers is near vertical, and that's a very important part to the stability of a tail wheel. We'll maybe get into that another time, but that angle needs to be exactly right. We look at the spring and chain on the right side, so we'll go back and look at that. Also note here, you can see we got our trim tab, ground adjustable trim tab for the rudder. But we come back, we check our clips, spring, cable, chains, they all look good. Elevator moves correctly, feels nice, silky smooth because it's been greased and oiled properly. We can check our elevator horn in there. I know it's hard to see, but it's right here. We're making sure there's no cracks, that the nuts are secure to hold the cables that make the elevator function. Check the right side of our vertical stabilizer. It's in good shape. Check the horizontal stabilizer here. I like to just give it a little bit of a wiggle, make sure that it's nice and secure. Back in the day, these Luscombes were popping tails off of them, and that gets into a long story, but an STC came out to improve that, and I don't think anyone's popped a tail off one since, but I always like to make sure that all three surfaces are nice and secure. We come down here and we have another inspection hole here that's secure. We can look at the chain or the cable coming from the rudder cables in the cockpit. Look good, and that the castle nut and cotter key on that rudder horn is secure. Looking at the structure again, these tail wheels take a beating, and so this aft structure back here takes a lot of load, and we want to make sure we don't have any cracks in it. And it looks good. Come up the right side of the fuselage. Everything looks good. We get back to our cap, fuel cap there. Come along the top of the wing. We're looking at our wing structure, the corrugations on the back, which add stiffness and strength to make sure they're in good shape. Look at that trailing edge to make sure it's nice and true and straight, hasn't been damaged in any way. And we get to our elevator, or excuse me, our ailerons here. And we can see that when I move this aileron down, that one goes up. Move that one down, this one goes up. So we have proper function. And we have a trim tab here on this one too. The trim tabs make things less worse on a Luscombe. Luscombes are really hard to trim up true. It can be done, but it takes a lot of work. And they just don't quite have the stability to just kind of sit there all day, because they're kind of known to be squirrely airplanes. You can see we have a patch on the aileron skin right there, and that skin or that patch is in good shape. We come along and look at our aileron horns here, no cracks. We look at the nuts and bolt here, bolt's good. Nuts, castle nut is good. Sorry, out of focus there. And then the cotter key is in place. Maybe another time I'll show you up close on those, because these are just, I mean, your life depends on these castle nuts and cotter keys. So you want to make sure those are present. And then we have safety wiring on our turnbuckle here that sets the correct length of these cables so that the controls move correctly. We've got, see if we can get it back in focus there. We got one on the bottom here. Bolt, nut, castle nut and key are in good shape. We've got our aileron hinge point actually out here, so we're looking at those. Make sure that that's all good. Now these ailerons, good ailerons, will have at least 3 hinges on them, and there is another hinge hinge point hiding up in here, and it's hard to see in the video, but I just checked it, it's in good shape. And then there's one more right here. There's a reason ailerons have 3 hinges on them, and that's if you lose one, you don't lose your aileron. So that was a early innovation that made airplanes safer that you might not think about. So now we're out here at the wingtip. We can see that the wingtip is secure, And we can look down the top of the wing here. It looks to be in good shape. Come along, look at our leading edge, make sure that all our covers are secure, safety panels are secure. Come along here to our struts. Give the strut a good shake, make sure it's secure. These are hollow struts. You can look right down them if you unbolt them. And so sometimes we do that at annual to look for corrosion, or we stick a bore scope in there, take a look. But you want to be careful with these. They're not quite as strong as a Cessna 172, where you can stand on them to climb up and check the fuel. So if you stood on one of these, you'd probably fold it in half. So we don't sit on them, we don't stand on them like you might in another airplane. Now I'm going to step up on the tire, and I'm going to look down the top of the wing here. Once again, more corrosion X making a mess of the wing. There's our comm antenna that we just saw here on the left side. Right there. Everything looks good along the top. Got nice rubber caps in all of our spar inspection points. And we can look at the door. We can see that the door handle is streamlined into the wind. You can see that the window is closed. We've got our door hinge bolts secure there. Another one here. It's in good shape. I've seen these brackets on several Luscombe's break, so they're kind of flimsy. You want to check those because you definitely don't want a door coming loose on you in flight. Coming forward, we get to the landing gear, and these Luscombe's have very stiff, very tight landing gear, and they're a lot different than maybe some other tail draggers like a Cub or a Champ or a Chief. And so they're steel-legged gear, and then they have this wire that comes down to create a triangle that gives the gear its structure. So they're very stiff gear. Come down and look at the gear leg itself. Down here we can see the brake arm here, which actuates the puck brakes, and that's in good shape. We also have the Goodyear brakes on this model, also known as the bad ear brakes, because if the rotor on this brake assembly gets cockeyed, the whole thing's gonna lock up and it's a bad day. So on these Goodyear brakes, which I want to get rid of at some point here soon, there are 4 clips that hold the brake rotor in place, and then we run electrical tape around them to make sure that those clips don't pop out, because then you're in for a bad day. Okay, tire looks to be in good shape. Cap is secure. And looking across the bottom there, underneath where that bolt is pointing forward between the 2 gear, that's where our oleo strut is and spring, so we want to make sure that's not leaking. And we can look under the airplane and make sure it's not too messy. So it's in good shape. Now we get to our engine, and this being an 8A, has the original engine on it, Continental 65 horse. A65. So we open the cowling here and we find the engine. We can see that we've got the spark plug leads here, and this is one thing that I really like about the Luscombe cowling with it opening so big, is you can really get in here and look at stuff. We can make sure that all our spark plugs and spark plug leads are tight. We can check all our hoses to make sure that we're going to have cabin heat and carb heat. We can check the condition of the cylinders and the case itself pretty well. We got our breather line running down here and then out and down out to here. So that's our breather line hiding there right behind the exhaust. We can look at our exhausts themselves, make sure they appear to be in good shape. And we got our oil cap right here. So we'll see if I can reach in here. Loosen that up. And try not to make it much of a mess, but it looks like we're sitting just above 3 quarts. So 4-quart engine, I usually run about 3 to 3.5 quarts, seems to be where it's happiest. Oil pressure feed line up to the cabin there in orange. Magnetos are back here. I like to reach in there, make sure they're secure, that way their timing hasn't moved. And the door itself, the felt down each side's in good shape. and we can close it up. And I always like to just last check. Oil cap is secure, and I find that if I say it out loud, I'm less likely to doubt myself later. So got this little tool here. These are called Dezeus fasteners, and they need about a quarter to eighth of a turn, and they clip in place, which is nice. Right now I've got the pretty little intake or cylinder grates out that usually sit right in here. They give the Luscombe that nice 1940s look, but they're out right now. We're switching her over from winter flying to summer flying, so they're not there to make it look pretty. But we'll check our prop here. Prop's in good shape. Spinner, we call this a skull cap spinner. It's secure. Check there. Look in our inlets here for cylinder cooling. They look good. Here's our oil sump cooler inlet. It's free. There's our filter, and it looks to be in good shape. And those are really, they're oil-soaked filters, so they're really nasty. You don't want to touch them. And then we have our carb heat dump underneath. So when we're not using carb heat, all the air that we heated to be ready for carb heat comes out right here. So that's secure. On a lot of Luscombes, you'll just see that cut off flush. But mine still has the outlet here. Wind's picking up a little bit. But it's afternoon in the Midwest, so anywho, we got the exhaust on the right side here. It's not rubbing and it's secure. Open up our cowling. Check our cylinders. Exhaust. Got our spark plug leads. We can see our magnetos back here. And then we've got our oil screen and tack drive cable back here. And they're secure. Look down there, the brass thing down there, that's our gasculator. And then all our hoses are secure on our cabin heat and carb heat. Close this up. This back one usually doesn't give me much trouble, but the front one sometimes does. She took. We'll take it. Okay, we got our Venturi over here on the left-hand side of the airplane. This provides suction pressure to run our turn coordinator. And it's clear and looks to be in good shape. It's secure to the airplane. Coming along here, we can look at our gear leg again. You can see, if you look just right, you see the brake cable coming down into the fairing here. And we look at our brake arm there. Our tape is in place, and our rotor is in place, and the tire is inflated. It all looks good. Come along here, the door is open. Come to our pitot tube. Got a nice little vent cover that automatically opens in the slipstream. And we can look in there, make sure no bugs. It looks clear. Good there. Look at our strut again. Strut is straight and true. Look at our aileron hinges and aileron cable attachments. Good. We can look up in there. Kind of hard to see, but up in there is another one of the aileron bolts. One right there in good shape. Inspection covers are secure. Wingtip is secure. It's got 1 million screws in it, and that's because back in the day they riveted these on. They never thought anyone would fly them long enough to need to inspect in there. So when people did start flying them, longer and longer, more than the factory ever thought they would. I doubt the guy who riveted those 80 years ago is thinking, if he's still alive, that these things would still be flying 80 years later. But anyhow, now they got screws in them. Got our turnbuckle and bolt on this side, good shape. Got our aileron hinge. And then one more bolt hiding up in here. Kind of hard to see, but it looks to be in good shape. Look along the skin here. And we've done our complete walk around of the Luscombe 8A. Back in the cabin here in the cockpit, not much has changed. And not much more to check except to climb in and get her started and get going. So that's a pre-flight on my Luscombe 8A. I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully we'll have some flying videos here soon for you to enjoy and learn along with me. So until next time, fly safe.